going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. And welcome to the end of the week. And it looks like we are going to get the end of the week with a green day. At least we're going to start it out this way. We'll take a look over here at the cryptocurrency markets. We'll look at Bitcoin. We'll look at the altcoin market cap. We'll look at a few altcoins to see what's going on. Why are we having green? One of the things that has really been the talk of the town over the last several weeks has been the DXY, or the US dollar currency index. This is something we've been talking about on this channel since I started creating YouTube videos on here, that my expectations were that the dollar was going to drop. We saw this really big correlation between the dollar dropping right in here, and this was the 2017 bull run for cryptocurrency. And then this entire time period was the bear market of cryptocurrency, expecting that we were seeing an A, B, C correction coming out of the dollar, that it would end up coming all the way back down here to 79 to 80 at some point. But as it's been holding up right here, holding the same level that it held at the end of the 2017 bull run, there's been a lot of worry, a lot of concern. Is the dollar getting stronger? What's been interesting is that there was no talk of inflation, no talk of the devaluing of the US dollar in the year 2020, which is when the entire fall ended up happening. It wasn't until 2021 that the dollar actually found its support right here at the very beginning of January in 2021, and hasn't been able to break down from that level. So each time it makes this little move up, it's got investors concerned and worried and wondering what's going on. One thing we also noticed this year in 2021 is that the retail crowd came into the inflation trade finally. After ignoring it during all of 2020, they finally came into it in 2021. So the big question has been, well, is inflation really even going to happen? Retail investors are always wrong. If they're all on that same page, if they're all getting the marketing message spilled to them from their favorite news and media outlets, well, are they just being the last one drawn into the trade? I think those are all fair points, because that is what happens in these markets, is that, you know what, they remain hush hush until it's finally time to draw in retail. We saw that happen with Bitcoin. That's not the first time that has happened with Bitcoin. That exact same thing happened in 2017. But the big question is, will the dollar find support here and move up to new highs and then crush the cryptocurrency market along the way? Or is the dollar going to break down? I'm still in the belief that the dollar is still going to break through this support level. And for those who love as everybody has become these Wyckoff distribution pattern recognizers now, I don't know how you don't even see it right here on the DXY. So you have your distribution happening up in here, your breakdown, and then your retrace, right? Coming back up in here. Obviously, it did go up a little bit higher with C19 happening and the big volatility that happened in there. But in general, it held the retracement level and then started to break down. And then what we always see right here in a Wyckoff distribution or in a breakdown pattern is you're going to see some holding up right in here, which, for example, over here on Bitcoin, right? You got your three rises here, your breakdown, then your retracement, coming into retracement levels. And then what happens? You've got to battle that out for a little while before the real big breakdown ends up coming, which is where I do believe that we are over here on the dollar. Now, over the course of the last several weeks, the dollar's been rising up in here, right? Causing a lot of worry and concern. You see a lot of people out there talking about this, calling this a head and shoulders pattern, in which you start with your left shoulder over here, like this. Then you have your head, and then you have your next shoulder. And typically in a head and shoulders pattern, you're going to measure the length of the head. So however big the head is, you measure that from the breakout of the neckline right in there, and that gives you your target right up there, which in this case, if that was a head and shoulders, the target would be 97 for the US dollar currency index. But I'm not so convinced that is what's happening. I do believe we're just battling this resistance, or battling the support once again before it has a further ride down. But so something interesting happened this morning, and that's why we're looking at this right now, is that we can flip this on. We'll throw on some indicators in here just to kind of look at the strength. If we can see that the MACD on the daily time frame is starting to cross, we can see we have reached up about as high as we typically get, and then the cross is starting to take place. We can see that in the relative strength, there has been reduced strength throughout this entire rise right in here. So we have three peaks of reduced strength, yet on the pricing, we can see that the price or the value of the US dollar continued to rise during that time period while the strength was reducing. Today, you see a bigger breakdown in the strength. And in addition, when we put this like on the 1 hour time frame, we can see that trend was broken this morning. Now, if you don't know this, up until just about an hour or two ago, the entire cryptocurrency market was red. The second this happened, the market turned green. So hard to extrapolate too much data out of this right now, but things that we do see is that there's definitely reduced strength on the daily time frame for the dollar. It's reached up to usually the levels that it does before it turns over on itself And we do see that reduced strength with higher pricing. We do see that as it just broke trend right now, the cryptocurrency market responded tremendously to that. Just 2 hours ago, this whole board was red. So, still hard to draw anything from that. It's at the early stages. The dollar would need to have more follow through for us to really say there's a strong correlation to what's happening over there to what's happening in crypto at this exact moment. So, we'll see how that progresses throughout the rest of the day and heading into next week. As for Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price chart still remains exactly where we've been, right? We've been stuck in this range now for 16 days. We're probably like right dead in the middle of it, right? As I said, 16 days. That's just silly. It's been 18 days that we've been in here, and we're just sitting right here in the dead middle of this range that we've been in since June 21st. So is that going to be our catalyst to get us to break out of here? I'll take it if it is. As for the Ripple XRP price chart, we haven't been talking too much about this lately because the XRP price chart has been 100% following the rest of the cryptocurrency market. So long as XRP hasn't deviated away from the market and doing something on its own, really it's just about keeping our eyes on what's happening in the whole market. And for the altcoins, this is just kind of where we're at. We're kind of at these last moments right in here based on all the other structures we've looked at, the previous corrections we've looked at. We're just waiting for that big pop to come out of XRP and head back to the upside. There's really kind of just two different things that I'm looking for here, and both of them are just going to take time. One, either we're just going to see some type of big blast that comes straight upwards out of here. I'm not saying that blast would take us straight into all-time highs, but at least get us back up in here up to about $1.10 or at least over $1. Pretty much a straight line up that would only take a day or two for that to happen. That's one of the scenarios that I'm looking for, and for it to happen from somewhere around right here without setting new lows. Otherwise, if this thing just keeps drawing out and drawing out and drawing out longer and longer and longer, we're going to have to be looking for a Wyckoff accumulation pattern starting to show up down here at the bottom, which you can look at that from two lights. You can look at that like, hey, that's great. We're in long-term accumulation. That's going to set us up. I don't talk about it because I don't like to give outrageous price predictions. $10 has always been kind of my zone, right? But if this thing does spend a longer time period, like if it spends, say, 40 days down here accumulating and accumulating, well, based on structures, based on measurements, that pushes the target much higher. The longer the accumulation at the lower, the higher the prices can go. And that would make me believe that it's even potentially possible that the price would go higher than $10. So you can look at that from a positive light and say, look, the longer it accumulates down here, the better it is long term. Or, you can look at it from like, oh my gosh, we have to be down here for a long time. So I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting on what's going to happen. I think the more likely thing is that we do just see a pop straight up right there to about $1, getting back up to this price level right in here. And then consolidation does continue further. But if the price does stay suppressed down here, then the likely thing we're seeing is a bigger Wyckoff accumulation that pushes that price forecast or pushes the measurements out to more closer to the $20 to $25 price targets. Now, I'm not going to put that in the title of my thumbnail. I'm not going to put that, in the title of my video or on the thumbnail of my video because I don't know right now, and I'm not confident enough to like slap my name on that and say that's what my expectation is. I still stick to the $10 stuff, but we just have to wait and see how the accumulation is going to play out down here. Is this going to be long consolidation that kind of goes more like this and then comes back up and then pulls down again, and then it's out of here? In that scenario, that one right there would set you up for a higher price target potentially, or at least make me start questioning, could this thing go even higher? But right now, we're kind of at the mercy of what's happening with the rest of the market because the XRP price chart, like it or love it, hate it or love it, is following the rest of the cryptocurrency market. And until it proves otherwise, we have to continue assuming that it will, or at least I have to continue assuming that it will. And for that, I have to keep my attention focused on what's happening with the entire cryptocurrency market. And speaking of that, we'll go right back to the total altcoin market cap here in a second. In the video, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before, we were talking about this correction back down in here, and I had overlaid it on top of Bitcoin right now to show the similarities. Like this, to show that the correction has been incredibly similar to what our last correction was that scared the market tremendously, how these are incredibly similar corrections and recoveries, and that, well, we're just kind of in this grueling time period. And that would have been this time period right in here for the market cap of the altcoin. So the total altcoin market cap was in this time period right here when Bitcoin was going through that correction. So I said, hey, why not? Let's take a look at what that correction looked like over here and overlay it on top of the altcoin market and what it looks like right now. And well, what do you know? Incredibly similar as well. Same retracement levels, stretching it out, same time ratio happening in here, incredibly similar once again, even for the market cap of the altcoins. And I'm not saying it will follow this precisely, moving its way back up. We'll just have to see how it does play out. But let's pretend it did move back up in this manner, right? What's the next phase that's coming here in this market, right? If it did start to recover like this, go up and set a new high, pull back, and then go back up, where are we at that point, right? You're right there at that 702 Fibonacci retracement. And there's going to be a lot of decisions and stuff that has to be done there, right? If, there's so much belief out there that this market is crashing and crumbling, right? Well, what we know is, and what we've seen in previous cycles, is that these markets will retrace to the 702 retracement and then crash and crumble, and that's the end of the bull market, right? Or does it continue to break through and go up even higher? So for me personally, it's going to be kind of assessing my whole portfolio and figuring out what's really high. Is there something that needs to have some type of risk taken off the table? And I haven't made up my mind on that yet. I'm going to wait and see how things start to play out as we get closer to there. But you have to recognize that moment is coming, right? In the 2017 bull run, the order of operations and what happened was that Bitcoin flew to the upside. Altcoins flew to the upside as well. The mainstream media, CNBC, drew in all of the retail crowd. The prices crashed, retraced back to 702, and then the market crumbled beyond there. From right here in this spot, it turned over, and that was the beginning of the bear market. So I can't tell you what to do. All I can do is show you the chart, show you the history, give my opinions on how I interpret the data, but in the end, it's for everybody to interpret the data. If this is how this plays out and it retraces back to that 702, we know how reactionary that 702 can be. We know that when the bubble popped for Bitcoin back in 2017, there was a large crash followed by a retracement back to the 702 retracement level, and then off into a bear market we went. And then on the flip side of things, we've spent a year talking about this to right there. And then what has happened and all the examples that we have when that precise thing happens, where it reaches out to the 4.236 based on the rally prior to capitulating back in 2018. In each example that we have, the market broke up and kept going up higher. And this is the total market cap of all of cryptocurrency right here. If you ask me which one I favor this one. I don't have examples where we have this type of a precise thing happen and then the market crumbles from right here. In the examples, it always breaks through of the ones that I can find. I've even based all of my exit plans and all my strategies around this. So to see this type of reaction happen right here tells me that everything is still lining up correctly up until this point. It's borderline scary of how well it's all lined up. In the end, you make forecasts, you make predictions, you make assumptions, and you say, this is the area that looks like it's going to be of the most interest. And then here you go. A year later, it pinpoint nails it. And in the assumption of that forecast and that model and that prediction, all the examples show it continues to keep going higher. So I will favor that and assume that this time isn't different. But I feel like I would be doing a disservice to my channel to not at least point that out of, the order of operations of how things all just played out. Retail investors got drawn into this market. Market ended up crashing afterwards. Now we're heading back into retracements. You've seen what has happened in the past. I've shown examples of it breaking up higher, but to each their own. And again, another reason why I still favor that the market will go higher is something very critical is missing from this market cycle that is present in each of the previous market cycles. And that is when the end of the bull run did come, XRP went on a massive blast. And we obviously have not seen that. And a lot of these altcoins haven't even come close to getting beyond retracement levels from the 2017 bull run. So there's still a lot of elements missing in the altcoin market to say that the top is in for me, especially this one right here. No big blast in XRP, and that has shown up and been present at the end of each of the previous bull runs. So I favor that we break to the upside. The one thing to be wary of and that we have to keep our eyes on still is that when the alt season really kind of got roaring, or when XRP did have that massive blast, in 2013 and in 2017, the massive blasts occurred into this retracement rally. So if XRP starts going into some massive blast while Bitcoin is in some type of retracement level and coming up in here, that needs to be very well taken note of, because that is what happened back in here, and that also marked the top of Bitcoin in 2013 as well. So we don't have the data right now. It's something I'm monitoring, and of course I'll continue to communicate that through my channel and what my thoughts are on all of that, but we still have to wait for that moment to come. Clearly, we haven't seen the retracement come in for Bitcoin yet, and we haven't seen the blast off in XRP happen yet. I think one of the optimistic things would be is if Bitcoin did start retracing back up into this area and XRP still hasn't taken off yet. I know that sounds counterintuitive if you're a holder of XRP thinking that, but what that would signal based on previous rallies is that that's not the end, that Bitcoin is not going to be getting rejected heavily and going into a bear market from the retracement rally. Because if XRP is surging into that retracement rally, well, based on history, and if you're going to use history as your assumptive model, you'd have to say this is the end. But either way, we're not there yet. If we get to that and those things start lining up, of course, I would put out my thoughts on all of that. But we're not there. I don't lean that way at all right now. I have absolutely no way to know that at this point. I still lean on the fact that Bitcoin has not reached out to a full 4.236 extension. The total market cap has come back in to hit the double tap, back test, bull flag breakout, which I've said 1,000 times. I don't even know how to say it. I need a much more catchy phrase for that, and that these things all indicate that the prices are going to go higher. So that's the way I'm leaning right now for sure. But I know how panicked people get when I start saying, okay, watch out right here. And if I talk about it ahead of time, at least it's something that is not going to catch you by surprise when you see me say, this is a big moment right here. And for those who have been around for a long time, how we do the live streams when we break through that stuff, how exciting it is to get through those things, because those are huge moments. I've shown an overwhelming amount of examples how often that 702 does do the breakdown, and then when we break through it, it's just this big huge celebration stuff, and we consistently see that when it does get a clear break through that 702, that market just starts surging to the upside no matter what the asset is that we've watched. So that's our critical spot right there. But I'm optimistic. Look at this. We've got what that same correction looked like. Everything's still lining up just fine. And again, all of that tying back over here to the dollar. If the dollar does lose this support, this multi-year support that it's had down in here, one would have to assume crypto would break higher. At least I would have to assume. And so for the rest of today, I will be keeping an eye on the dollar to see what happens in here, as it is showing weakness and rolling over, and how our crypto market immediately responded to that happening. And on that note, I'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. I hope that you guys have a great weekend. If you're looking for something to do throughout the weekend, you can check out additional content from me over here on my website, bcbacker.com. This is my course where I deep dive into the previous Bitcoin bull runs, the different altcoin market cycles, tying them all together to show how the alt seasons have coordinated with Bitcoin in the past. I talk about my different exit plans. I talk about mathematics, and I talk about percentages. A lot of educational content in here. I did also include a market update recently down here on June 30th that is available to anybody enrolled in the course and anybody who newly enrolls in the course. But all of this is available for you over here on bcbacker.com. You could follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.